The room fell silent as the doors to the United Earth Government headquarters opened. Secretary General Alan Wright stood tall, his gray suit pressed perfectly for this historic moment. Beside him, Major Diana Collins kept her hand close to her sidearm, her eyes never leaving the strange visitors. The aliens called themselves Zolarians. Their leader, Ambassador Nixtel, stepped forward on 4 slender legs. His blue skin shimmered under the bright lights of the Geneva meeting hall. 2 translator devices floated beside him. "We thank you for receiving us," Nixtel said, his words coming through the translator in clear English. "Our journey has been long and dangerous." Secretary Wright nodded and gestured to the large round table. "Please, be seated. We have much to discuss." The year was 2145. Humanity had spread throughout the solar system, with colonies on Mars, the Moon, and several large space stations orbiting Jupiter and Saturn. They had developed faster than light travel only 15 years ago and had begun exploring nearby star systems. But this was the first time aliens had come to Earth. Major Collins leaned close to Secretary Wright and whispered, "I don't trust them. This could be the beginning of an invasion." Wright gave her a stern look. "Let's hear what they have to say before jumping to conclusions." As the human and Zolarian delegations sat down, screens around the room displayed information about the visitors. Scientists and military leaders watched from side rooms, studying every move the aliens made. Nixtel placed a small device on the table. It projected a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Several star systems glowed red. "We come to you not as conquerors, but as refugees," Nixtel explained. "For the past 30 years, our people have been running from the Vexari Dominion." The map zoomed in, showing hundreds of ships moving across space. They had sharp edges and glowed with an angry red light. The Vexari believe they are the only species worthy of existing in this galaxy. They have destroyed 3 species completely and conquered 17 star systems. Nixtel's voice grew heavy. "Our homeworld fell 3 years ago. These ships carry the last 50,000 of our kind." Secretary Wright's face showed concern. "And you believe Earth might be their next target?" "We know it will be," another Zolarian said. "I am Vexra, chief scientist. We have tracked their path. They follow any species with advanced technology. Your radio signals have been broadcasting your location for over 200 years." Major Collins stood up. "So you led them straight to us. How convenient." "Major," Wright warned. Nixtel's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "We understand your suspicion, but we did not choose Earth randomly. Our scouts have observed your people for decades. Humans have something rare in this galaxy. You fight fiercely to protect what you love." The room grew quiet as images appeared on the screens. They showed human history, ancient battles, world wars, and more recent conflicts in space, as humans defended their colonies from pirates and natural disasters. "We have technology we can share," Vexra offered. "Defensive systems, medical advances, faster ships. But what we really need is a place for our people, and allies who will stand with us when the Vexari come." Secretary Wright looked around the room at the human delegation. Some faces showed fear, others determination. "How long do we have?" Wright asked. 2 years, perhaps less," Nixtel answered. Major Collins studied the alien's face, looking for signs of deception. "And if we say no, if we don't want to join your war, then you will face them alone when they arrive," Nixtel said simply. "And they will still come." Secretary Wright stood up and extended his hand, a human gesture the aliens had learned. "Earth will provide sanctuary for your refugees. As for an alliance, that decision will require more discussion. But know this, humanity does not abandon those in need." As Nixtel reached out with his slender blue hand, Major Collins watched carefully. She knew that this moment changed everything. Earth had just entered a much larger and more dangerous universe. 6 months had passed since the Zolarians arrived on Earth. The red soil of Mars now hosted 3 large Zolarian settlements, with more refugees living on Earth's moon. The blue-skinned aliens worked well with humans, sharing knowledge and helping prepare for the coming threat. Dr. Jason Porter wiped sweat from his brow as he studied the holographic display. The lab on Mars Base Alpha was crowded with both human and Xylarian scientists. They had been working for weeks on improving Earth's defense systems. "The shield modulation is still not strong enough," said Vexra, the Xylarian chief scientist. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he adjusted some calculations. "Vexari weapons will cut through these like paper." Dr. Porter nodded. "What if we layer them? Use Earth's traditional energy shields as the outer layer, then your crystal technology as the second." In orbit around Earth, Admiral Frank Murphy floated through the command center of the flagship Guardian. Screens showed the positions of Earth's growing fleet. Since the Xylarians arrived, ship production had tripled. Still, it wouldn't be enough if the Vexari were as powerful as described. "Sir, we've finished the battle simulations," said Lieutenant Kate Wilson, looking up from her station. "Even with our improved weapons, we lose in 87% of scenarios." Admiral Murphy frowned. "Run them again. Try spreading our forces in a wider formation. Maybe we can draw them into smaller groups." The Admiral knew time was running out. Earth had spent decades fighting among themselves before finally uniting. Now they faced an enemy that had conquered entire worlds. On the far edge of the solar system, near the orbit of Pluto, a small research station picked up unusual readings. Officer Greg Patterson stared at his screen in disbelief. "Captain, you need to see this," he called out. Captain Linda Alvarez pushed off from her chair and floated over. The readings showed 3 ships entering the solar system. They were unlike any design humans had built. "Send the alert to Earth," she ordered, "and wake up our Xylarian advisor." Within minutes, the Xylarian scientist Trelvox confirmed their worst fears. "These are Vexari scout ships. The main fleet will not be far behind." Earth's Security Council gathered in Geneva. Secretary Wright looked older than he had 6 months ago, the weight of humanity's future pressing down on him. "The scouts have been spotted," he announced to the gathered leaders. "The Vexari have found us sooner than expected." Major Collins, recently promoted to colonel, pulled up images of the alien ships. "They're moving faster than anything we have. They'll reach Neptune's orbit in 3 days." "We should strike first," said General Perry Daniels, the head of Earth's combined military forces. "Show them we're not easy prey." Secretary Wright shook his head. "We still don't know enough about them. Ambassador Nix Tell warned us about their weapons capabilities. We should try diplomacy first." The debate lasted hours. Finally, they reached a decision. Earth would send a diplomatic ship to meet the approaching scouts while readying the military fleet as a precaution. Veteran diplomat Olivia Reeves volunteered to lead the mission. As she boarded the diplomatic vessel Peace, she knew the risks. But if there was any chance to avoid war, she had to try. "Just remember," Colonel Collins told her before departure, "if things go wrong, burn back to Earth at full speed. We'll have the fleet ready." 3 days later, the Peace approached the Vexari scouts near Neptune. Olivia sent message after message, offering friendship and cooperation. The response came not in words but in action. A bright beam of energy shot from the lead Vexari ship. The Peace exploded instantly. All 30 crew members died in seconds. The signal reached Earth 20 minutes later. The sensor recording showed everything. In the silent Security Council chamber, Secretary Wright stood. His voice was heavy but determined. "As of this moment, Earth is at war with the Vexari Dominion. May God help us all." Across the solar system, the alert went out. Humanity would not go quietly into the night. The attack on Neptune's research stations came without warning. 3 Vexari scout ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately opened fire. Alarms blared as the first energy beams cut through the outer domes. "Evacuate to the lower levels," shouted Dr. Ellie Wright as she helped her research team to the emergency pods. Outside the reinforced windows, she could see the Vexeri ships. They were black with glowing red lines, shaped like arrowheads aimed at the heart of humanity. Earth's outer defense fleet, stationed near Neptune, responded quickly. 5 human battleships moved to engage the enemy. The lead ship, Intrepid, was commanded by Captain Samuel Gray, a veteran of conflicts in the asteroid belt. All ships, spread formation. Target their engines if possible, Captain Gray ordered, his voice steady despite the danger. Remember your training. These aren't the first aliens who thought they could push us around. The human ships fired their newly upgraded weapons. Bright blue beams lanced across space. The first shots caught one Vexeri ship by surprise, damaging its side. But the enemy recovered quickly. The Vexeri weapons were unlike anything humans had faced before. They fired red energy that seemed to cut through shields like they weren't even there. The human ship Victory exploded after taking just 3 direct hits. "Our shields are failing," reported Lieutenant Ryan Miller from the weapons station on the Intrepid. "They're using some kind of phased energy our defenses can't block." Captain Gray watched as 2 more Earth ships were hit. He made a hard decision. "All ships, tactical retreat. We need to fall back and regroup." The Earth fleet turned and accelerated away, but not before Captain Gray ordered a final volley of missiles. Most were destroyed before reaching their targets, but one hit a damaged section of the lead Vexeri ship. The explosion tore a hole in its hull. "That will give them something to think about," Gray said as his ship raced back toward the inner solar system. The battle was over in less than 30 minutes. 3 Earth ships destroyed, the other 2 damaged. 1 Vexeri ship was damaged, but still operational. The research stations on Neptune were completely destroyed, with only half the scientists escaping in emergency pods. When news reached Earth, scientists immediately began studying the battle data. Dr. Jason Porter and his Illyrian colleague Vexera worked through the night analyzing the Vexeri weapons. "Look at this energy signature," Dr. Porter said, pointing to a reading from the battle. "Their weapons operate on a frequency our shields can't detect." Vexera nodded, his blue skin reflecting the light of the screens. "But now that we know this, we can adjust. The Vexeri have never faced humans before. They don't know how quickly you adapt." While the scientists worked, Lieutenant Kelly Martinez prepared for a dangerous mission. She led a special operations team trained in space combat and infiltration. Their target, the damaged Vexeri ship, which had moved to a position near Neptune to make repairs. "This is our chance to learn about their technology up close," Lieutenant Martinez told her team of 6 as they prepared their stealth ship. "We go in, gather what intel we can, and get out. No heroes today." Their ship, painted black to blend with space, approached the damaged Vexeri vessel slowly. Using the debris from the battle as cover, they'd managed to reach the hole in the Vexeri hull without being detected. Suits sealed, weapons ready, Martins ordered as they prepared to enter enemy territory for the first time. Inside the alien ship, they moved carefully through strange corridors lit by red light. The Vexeri were tall, insect-like creatures with 4 arms and hard exoskeletons. The human team avoided direct contact, using the ship's ventilation system to move toward what appeared to be the main engineering section. What they discovered there changed the course of the war. The Vexeri power systems emitted a specific type of radiation that seemed harmful to the Vexeri themselves, as they wore protective gear near the engines. This could be their weakness, Martins whispered as she recorded everything with her helmet camera. "Let's get this data back to Earth." As they extracted, alarms suddenly blared throughout the Vexeri ship. They had been discovered. 2 weeks after the Neptune battle, the Vexeri launched their full attack. Hundreds of ships poured into the solar system, moving faster than Earth's sensors could track. The outer planets fell quickly. Research bases on Saturn and Jupiter sent desperate messages for help before going silent. Admiral Frank Murphy watched from the command center of Earth's main space station as the defense fleet around Jupiter was destroyed in less than an hour. "They're moving too fast," he said, his face grim. Order the Saturn fleet to fall back to Mars. We can't hold the outer system. Mars became the new front line in humanity's desperate fight for survival. The Red Planet, home to over 2 million humans and 50,000 Xylarian refugees, prepared for the coming storm. Commander Ethan Blackwell stood on the surface of Mars, watching as more defense platforms were installed. As head of Mars Defense Force, he had spent every waking hour preparing for this moment. The civilian evacuation is at 60%, reported his second-in-command, Lieutenant Amy Foster. But we need at least 3 more days to get everyone to Earth. Commander Blackwell nodded. Then we give them 3 days, no matter what it takes. Back on Earth, Dr. Jason Porter and Vexra worked frantically in their lab. After Lieutenant Martinez's team returned with data from the Vexari ship, they had been developing new weapons based on the radiation vulnerability they discovered. The modifications to the defense satellites are complete, Dr. Porter said, his eyes red from lack of sleep. But we've only been able to upgrade 20% of our weapons. Vexra moved quickly around the lab on his 4 legs. Will that be enough to defend Mars? Dr. Porter didn't answer. They both knew the truth. The Vexari fleet reached Mars orbit the next day. Over 300 enemy ships against the 70 remaining human vessels. The sky above Mars turned bright with weapons fire and explosions. Commander Blackwell activated the new defense systems. Modified satellites fired beams of concentrated radiation that specifically targeted the Vexari ship's weak points. The first wave of attackers suffered heavy losses, surprised by the humans' new weapons. "It's working," shouted Lieutenant Foster as they watched from the command bunker beneath Mars' surface city. But the Vexari adapted quickly. Their second wave of ships came with improved shielding. They pushed through the defenses and began bombarding the surface. The first bombs hit the main dome of Mars' surface city, cracking it open and exposing thousands of civilians to the thin Martian atmosphere. Emergency protocols. Blackwell ordered, "Get everyone to the underground shelters." As the battle raged above, the evacuation continued. Transport ships loaded with civilians raced from Mars to Earth, protected by what remained of the human fleet. For every 10 ships that left, 7 made it through. The other 3 became debris floating in space. In Earth's Security Council, Secretary Alan Wright received the latest reports. Half of Mars was lost. Millions were dead across the solar system. The Vexari would reach Earth within days. Ambassador Nixtel entered the council chamber, his normally blue skin pale with stress. "Secretary Wright," he said, his voice trembling. "We have watched 17 species fall to the Vexari. Some fought bravely like you. Others tried to hide or surrender." He paused. "None survived." "We're still fighting," Wright replied. "The new radiation weapons have slowed them down." "Not enough," said Nick's telephone. "You must understand. The Vexari will not stop. They will not negotiate. They will not show mercy." The Xylarian ambassador moved closer, his 4 eyes fixed on Wright's face. "On behalf of my people, and all who still live in this system, I formally plead with humanity." His voice grew stronger. "Use your forbidden weapons, the ones your own laws prevent you from using. It is our only hope." Secretary Wright's face showed shock. "How do you know about those?" "We have observed Earth for decades. We know what your scientists created, then locked away out of fear." Nextel bowed his head. Now is the time for that fear to end. As if to emphasize his words, alarms began to sound. The final Vexari push had begun. Mars was falling. The emergency meeting of Earth's Security Council began at midnight. Reports from Mars grew worse by the hour. The Vexari had taken control of the northern hemisphere and were pushing south. Commander Blackwell and his forces were trapped in underground bunkers, fighting with limited supplies and dwindling hope. Secretary Wright looked around the table at the grim faces of Earth's leaders. General Perry Daniels had a bandage over one eye, injured during an inspection of Earth's defenses when a training exercise went wrong. Admiral Murphy appeared on a screen from his command ship, now positioned near the moon. Mars will fall within 24 hours, Admiral Murphy reported. Our remaining ships there cannot hold out any longer. What about the civilians? Asked Council Member Grace Wilson. 60% evacuated, said General Daniels. The rest. He didn't finish the sentence. Everyone understood. Ambassador Nixtel stood at the far end of the room, watching. The Zilarian had not been invited to this meeting, but had come anyway. No one had the heart to send him away. We need to discuss the ambassador's suggestion, Secretary Wright said finally. The use of restricted weapons. The room grew silent. After the resource wars of 2089, Earth had signed the Titan Accords, banning certain types of weapons considered too dangerous to use even in war. These included autonomous AI-driven weapon systems, nanoweapons that could self-replicate, and several types of biological agents. I say we use everything we have, Admiral Murphy said from the screen. I've watched good men and women die for 2 weeks straight. The Vexari give no quarter. The Titan Accords exist for a reason, argued Council Member Wilson. These weapons could cause damage beyond what we intend. They could affect Earth itself. General Daniels slammed his fist on the table. And what do you think the Vexari will do to Earth? Have you seen what they did to Neptune? To Jupiter's moons? They don't just conquer, they destroy everything. The debate continued for hours. As dawn broke over Geneva, they were no closer to a decision. Then Ambassador Nixtel stepped forward. May I speak? He asked quietly. Secretary Wright nodded. When the Vexari came to our system, we also debated. The Zilarian said. We also had weapons we feared to use. We waited too long. His voice broke. 50,000 of us remain from a species that once numbered billions. He touched a device on his wrist. A hologram appeared above the table, showing the beautiful blue-green world. This was Zilaria Prime, he said. Then the image changed to show the same planet burning, its oceans boiling away, its surface cracking. This is what it became. The room fell silent again. Secretary Wright stood slowly. We will vote. If the Council approves, we will activate Project Prometheus. The vote was 7-2 in favor. Secretary Wright gave the order immediately. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility few knew existed, Dr. Natalie Rivers received the authorization code. She had created the nanoweapon system 10 years ago, then recommended it be locked away forever. Now she would release it. Begin activation sequence. She ordered her small team of scientists. Prepare delivery systems. One of her assistants, Dr. Paul Chen, looked worried. Dr. Rivers, the simulation showed a 20% chance of uncontrolled replication. If that happens, I know the risks, she interrupted, but we're out of options. In the main chamber, containers holding trillions of microscopic machines were loaded into special delivery vessels. Each nanobot was smaller than a human cell, but contained an advanced AI core programmed to target specific materials used in Vexari technology. Once released, we can't call them back, Dr. Rivers warned as the final preparations were made. They'll keep working until they've consumed all compatible material, or until they receive the shutdown signal. Secretary Wright joined them via secure video link. How long until deployment? 6 hours, Dr. Rivers replied. We need to position the delivery vessels optimally. Do we evacuate the space stations? Asked General Daniels, who had also joined the call. Dr. Rivers shook her head. No time. And we need those stations to monitor the spread. Everyone stays at their posts. As Earth prepared to unleash its most terrible weapon, civilians were moved to underground shelters. The planet that had fought itself for centuries now united completely against an external threat. Humanity was about to show the galaxy why they should never have been cornered. The delivery vessels moved silently through space, their engines modified to leave no heat signature. Captain Lisa Hernandez sat in the pilot's seat of the lead ship, her hands steady despite the importance of her mission. 5 other ships followed behind, each carrying containers of the nanoweapons. Approach vector to Mars clear, reported her navigator, Lieutenant Jeff Davis. Vexeri ships are concentrated on the southern hemisphere. We should be able to slip through their lines. Captain Hernandez nodded. Remember, we need to get as close as possible to their command ships. The nanobots spread faster with direct contact. Their small fleet had left Earth 4 hours ago. They were humanity's last hope, carrying weapons that had been banned for good reason. If they failed, Earth would fall just like Mars was falling. On Mars, Commander Ethan Blackwell and what remained of his forces fought from underground bunkers. The Vexeri had broken through most of the surface defenses, but the network of tunnels and hidden bases gave the humans places to stage hit and run attacks. Another wave coming from the east, warned Lieutenant Foster, looking at the scanner. At least 50 ground troops. Blackwell checked his modified rifle. After the discovery of the Vexeri's radiation vulnerability, all available weapons had been adjusted to emit the harmful frequency. Hold position until they reach the ridge, then hit them with everything we have, he ordered. As the Vexeri troops approached, Blackwell caught his first close look at the enemy. They moved on 6 limbs when running fast, but could stand on their back 4 legs to use their front limbs for weapons. Their hard exoskeletons gleamed in the Martian sunlight. Now, Blackwell shouted. His soldiers opened fire from hidden positions. The modified weapons sent out beams of energy that made the Vexeri screech in pain when hit. Several fell immediately, but the others pressed forward, firing back with their own weapons. Sergeant Ben Howard, crouched next to Blackwell, was hit in the shoulder. They keep coming, he shouted above the noise. There's too many. In space above Mars, Captain Hernandez's ships approached the main Vexeri fleet. They had made it past the outer patrols, but now faced the most dangerous part of their mission. All ships, prepare to release the packages on my mark, she ordered through the secure channel. Remember your assigned targets. Lieutenant Davis looked at the scanner. Captain, large ship approaching from Sector 4. I think they've spotted us. Hernandez made a quick decision. All ships break formation. Get to your targets however you can. Mission success is all that matters now. The 6 human ships scattered. Hernandez pushed her vessel toward the largest Vexeri ship she could see. It was massive, at least 10 times the size of her small craft. As she approached, it turned toward her, weapon ports opening along its hull. Brace for evasive maneuvers, she warned her crew. We need to get within 100 meters to guarantee delivery. Red beams of energy shot past their ship as Hernandez twisted and turned through space. One hit glanced off their shields, making the entire ship shudder. Shields at 60%, reported her engineer. We can't take many more hits. We won't need to, Hernandez replied, pushing the ship into a dive directly toward the Vexeri vessel. Prepare the package for release. At 50 meters from the Vexeri hull, Hernandez pressed the launch button. A small container shot from her ship toward the enemy vessel. It attached to the hull and immediately began releasing its contents. Trillions of nanobots, each smaller than a dust particle, spread across the Vexeri ship. Package delivered, she reported. Pulling away now. Across the Martian orbit, the other 5 ships delivered their packages as well. 2 were destroyed in the process, their crews giving their lives to complete the mission. The nanobots went to work immediately. Designed to consume specific materials in Vexeri ships, they began breaking down hull plating, weapon systems, and internal components. The tiny machines multiplied as they worked, using the consumed materials to create more of themselves. Inside the Vexeri ships, alarms blared as systems began failing. The ship Hernandez had targeted suddenly lost power to its weapons. Another Vexeri vessel nearby began drifting, its engine shut down. From his command ship near Earth, Admiral Murphy watched the sensor readings with growing hope. It's working, he said quietly. The nanobots are spreading. But the victory was far from complete. The Vexeri commander, Grand Admiral Zexthar, quickly realized what was happening. He ordered all affected ships to be abandoned and destroyed. Then he turned his massive mothership toward Earth. "The main threat has not been eliminated," he announced to his fleet. "We will strike directly at the heart of the human world." Earth's final defensive line formed in orbit around the moon. Every ship that could still fly had been called back to protect the homeworld. Admiral Murphy stood on the bridge of the Guardian, watching as the massive Vexeri mothership approached. It was larger than anything humans had ever built, nearly the size of a small city. "All ships in position," reported his second-in-command. "The civilian evacuation to the underground shelters is at 98%. Murphy nodded. "How many ships do we have?" 112 combat-ready vessels, plus the orbital defense platforms. It wouldn't be enough. The Vexeri mothership alone carried weapons that could destroy their entire fleet, and behind it came hundreds of smaller ships that had not been affected by the nanobots yet. "Sir," called out a sensor officer, "we're detecting unusual readings from the damaged Vexeri ships near Mars. The nanobots are spreading between vessels, even the ones they tried to isolate." A small hope flickered in Murphy's chest. If the nanobots could reach the mothership before it reached Earth, they might have a chance. Colonel Diana Collins coordinated Earth's ground defenses from the Geneva Command Center. Reports came in from around the world as military units prepared for possible ground invasion. "The Vexeri will try to land near major population centers," she told her officers. "Our priority is to keep them away from the shelter entrances." Secretary Wright entered the command center, looking exhausted. "Any word from Dr. Rivers?" "She's working on a modification to the nanobots," Collins replied. "Something that targets Vexeri biology directly." Wright's expression darkened. "We swore we'd never use weapons against living beings, only machines." "Sir, with respect," Collins said quietly, "if the Vexeri land on Earth, it's over." The first shots of the battle were fired as the Vexeri fleet came within range of Earth's orbital defense platforms. Massive energy beams shot out from the platforms, striking the leading edge of the enemy fleet. Several smaller Vexeri ships exploded, but the mothership pushed forward, its shields absorbing the impacts. Colonel John Russell led the fighter squadrons that launched from bases on the moon. 500 small, agile craft designed to slip past the larger ships and target weak points. "Phoenix Squadron, follow me in," Russell ordered as he pushed his fighter toward the mothership. "Target their weapon ports." "Eagle Squadron, provide cover fire." The fighters swarmed around the massive Vexeri vessel, firing their modified weapons at specific points. The Vexeri responded with anti-fighter defenses that filled space with energy bursts. Dozens of human fighters exploded in the first minutes. "Keep pressing," Russell called as he rolled his fighter through a tight turn. "We need to buy time for the nanobots to reach this ship." On Earth, Dr. Natalie Rivers worked frantically in her lab. The original nanobots were designed to attack only Vexeri technology, but she had been developing a variant that could target their neural systems directly. "The reprogramming is complete," she told Dr. Chen, "but we need a way to deploy them." "The fighters," Chen suggested. "If we can get the new nanobots to Colonel Russell's squadron, they could deliver them directly to the mothership." Dr. Rivers nodded and opened a communication channel to Admiral Murphy. "Admiral, we have a new weapon, but we need your fighters to deliver it." As they spoke, the first Vexeri landing ships broke through Earth's defenses. They descended toward major cities: New York, Beijing, London, Moscow, and others. Earth's ground-based weapons fired at them, but many got through. In Geneva, Colonel Collins watched as the radar showed Vexeri ships approaching. "They're headed straight for us," she said. "They know this is our command center." Outside, the sky turned dark as Vexeri ships filled the air. The first one landed in the central plaza, its doors opening to release troops. They moved quickly, cutting down anyone they saw with energy weapons. Inside the command center, Secretary Wright made a decision. "We make our stand here. If Geneva falls, Dr. Rivers won't have time to deploy her new weapon." He picked up a rifle that had been modified with the radiation emitters. "I haven't held one of these since I was a young man in the resource wars. Seems fitting that I end as I began. Colonel Collins checked her own weapon. The Zalarian refugees are in the secure levels below us. We need to protect them at all costs. The building shook as the first Vexari weapons struck its outer walls. The final battle for Earth had begun. 3 weeks after the final battle, Admiral Frank Murphy stood at the viewport of his ship, looking down at Earth. Parts of the planet still showed the scars of war. Burning cities, damaged coastlines, and the wreckage of ships that had fallen from orbit. But Earth still lived. Humanity had survived. "Sir, the recovery team reports success at the Jupiter outpost," said his communications officer. "They found 32 survivors hiding in the deep mining tunnels." Murphy nodded. "Send them medical supplies and get them home as soon as possible." All across the solar system, ships were searching for survivors. The war had cost millions of lives, but each person found alive was a victory worth celebrating. In Geneva, most of the city lay in ruins. The battle for the command center had been brutal. Secretary Wright had fought alongside Colonel Collins and the remaining soldiers until the modified nanobots finally reached the Vexari troops. The tiny machines had infiltrated the aliens' breathing filters and attacked their neural systems, shutting down their brains within minutes. Wright now stood in what remained of his office, looking at a holographic map showing recovery efforts worldwide. His left arm was in a sling, broken during the fighting. "The shelters in North America are all clear," reported an aide. "We're still working on the Asian continent, but estimates show about 85% of the sheltered population survived." Dr. Jason Porter and Vexra worked together in a makeshift lab outside what was once Mars Surface City. Their task was perhaps the most important of all, safely deactivating the nanobots before they could spread to Earth's ecosystems. "The shutdown signal is working," Dr. Porter said, examining a sample under a microscope. "The original weapon nanobots are breaking down as programmed." Vexra looked concerned. "And the neural variant, the ones that target biological systems. Those are proving more difficult," Porter admitted. "But we've contained all known samples. Dr. Rivers is confident we can neutralize them within the week." Across Earth, people emerged from underground shelters to rebuild. The war had changed humanity forever. Old enemies now worked side by side, united by their shared survival against an outside threat. In what remained of the United Nations building in New York, a memorial service honored those who had died. Names scrolled on giant screens: soldiers, civilians, scientists, and leaders who had given their lives to protect Earth and its allies. Colonel Diana Collins, now promoted to general, read the names of her fallen comrades. Her voice remained strong even when she reached those she had known personally. "We gather today not only to mourn, but to remember what we fought for," she said to the assembled crowd, "and to recognize that we did not stand alone." Ambassador Nixtel and the surviving Zalarians sat in places of honor. During the final battle, they had fought alongside humans in the defense of Geneva. Many had died protecting the civilians in the bunkers below. After the service, Secretary Wright and Ambassador Nixtel met in a small room away from the crowds. Together, they signed a formal alliance treaty between Earth and what remained of the Zalarian people. "Your world will be rebuilt," Wright promised. "Humanity will help you recover what was lost." Nixtel's 4 eyes blinked slowly in gratitude. "You have done more than save us. You have shown the galaxy that the Vexari can be defeated." Later that evening, Secretary Wright stood alone on a balcony overlooking the ruins of New York. He thought about the terrible power humanity had unleashed, weapons so dangerous they had once been locked away forever. "Sir," called an aide from the doorway, "there's a message you should see." Wright followed him inside. On a screen, a transmission played from a distant star system. A new alien species, different from any they had seen before, was broadcasting in multiple languages. They had heard of Earth's victory and were reaching out. "They say they're also under threat from another aggressive species," the aide explained. "They're asking for our help." Wright stared at the screen for a long moment. Humanity had survived its greatest test, and revealed its tremendous power to the galaxy. Now others would come seeking protection, alliance, or perhaps to test that power themselves. "Tell them we'll listen to their plea," Wright said finally. "But also make sure they understand. Earth will always defend itself and its allies, no matter the cost." As night fell across the planet, humanity began to look toward the stars with new eyes, not as conquerors, but as protectors ready to face whatever the galaxy might bring next.